My name is Munawar. I'm 30 years old, and I've been working for Sparkster for about 3 years. Here at Sparkster, I work as a software engineer. I'm involved in writing compilers and a lot of the IOTA backend that we're currently implementing. I think the special thing about the project is that we're going to liberate so many people by taking away the complexities of having to code everything manually. We'll be able to make people a lot more efficient because we're removing a lot of the boilerplate code that so many developers are used to writing over and over again. And I think that's phenomenal. I'm part of this project because I've always wanted to make a difference, and Sparkster really allows me to be involved in something much larger than myself. It helps me bring the difference to the world that I've always wanted to bring. The Sparkster platform creates a difference in the world because it allows people to do things that they never thought they were capable of doing, such as building things. You find people who don't necessarily have the skills to code things manually, but they have great ideas, and we'll be able to bring that to them, that capability of being able to bring those ideas to fruition. Because we are headed toward a more technologically driven world, it's important for people to be more familiar with not only computers in general, but also how to speak the computer's language. As we see new advances in artificial intelligence, and as we see the advancement of IoT especially, the job market is going to go a lot more in the direction of people being able to tap all these different technology, and it's going to move away slowly from the manual labor force. So it's important for that reason that people get more familiar with how to build software. And I think our platform does a tremendous job in bringing that access to them. There are a lot of people who might think that what we've done is unbelievable. It's not true. But I'm here to tell you that it definitely is true. We've succeeded in making the impossible possible. You know, with a platform like this, skeptics will always say, well, there's limitations and this and that and the other thing. Yes, you know, there are limitations because at the end of the day, having coding tools such as C or C++ at your fingertips allows you to be extremely flexible to the point where you can get at the lower level of the operating system that you're not permitted to do with our platform. But we cover about 90 to 95% of use cases. We allow you to build extremely flexible business logic, and you're not restricted in the general domain of software development. For example, if I wanted to make some sort of business process that tracks inventory and stuff like that, I would easily be able to do it with this platform. The only limitation I see is if you want to code something like a SH script or something like that, something so advanced that everyday user would not necessarily think about. You really need the technical skills that the average person is probably not going to bother with acquiring. But for everyday use, for most use cases, our platform suits everybody just fine. I think the thing that makes the platform special is how easy it is to build full-fledged applications. We're not talking about just creating a website with a pretty interface, and then you need to hire a software developer to code all the actions behind the buttons and everything like that. We're talking about building a full end-to-end process. Not only that, but if you want to communicate outside of the platform, if you want to talk to devices, you can do all that with our platform. And we're unique in that regard because of the scope of the things that we cover. I think one of the most interesting things about the platform is that there's so much magic hidden behind the scene. When you're putting the blocks together, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes for you that you never see. There's a lot of architectural stuff. There are full-blown applications being written in a completely automated fashion. So when you take two blocks and you put them together, we're taking those blocks and translating them into actual computer code that you yourself don't even need to bother with. In essence, yes, we are doing the job of what highly skilled software developers, expensive software developers do. But at the same time, we're doing so much more. Because many of the things that we do, you need a team of software developers in order to accomplish it. For instance, taking a device and having it make payments using a smart contract or something like that. You need somebody who specializes in smart contracts. And then you need somebody who specializes in device code. That's two people already, and it's not going to be a cheap asset. We take all that, put it into one platform, and allow you to do it yourself. I think this technology changes the world because we bring the skill of software creation to so many people who have different ideas and just don't know how to code. So we're bringing something that used to be an elitist job down to the average person. And I think that definitely does change the world. Now, so many people who have all these ideas are suddenly liberated. Instead of having to rely on expensive software developers to bring to fruition what the great ideas that these people have, now they can do it themselves. And that's life-changing. You know, this figure that we came up with, 100x faster than a software developer, we didn't just pull it out of thin air. We took actual software developers and we asked them, how long would it take you to build a solution that we built in front of them in a matter of minutes? And the minimum answer we got from most of the software developers was 2 months. And this project involved a device talking to a smart contract. And they said it would take about 2 months for them to build it. We managed to do it in a matter of minutes. Here's a little bit of background about me. I started getting interested in computers very early on, and I started coding games when I was 12 years old. And the reason for that was I saw a lack of entertainment for blind people. So I said, I want to change this. And I started making games for blind people. And then in about 2010, I released a flight simulation program adapted completely for blind people. It was the first full-scale project I had released. Soon after that, I graduated from University of Central Florida with a computer science degree. And then in 2015, I joined Sparkster. My contribution to Sparkster was that I was directly involved in writing the brains behind the code that takes the English and translates it into machine-readable code. So when you take two blocks together and you see the English that's being generated, what happens behind the scenes is that English gets translated into machine code, and that's how a machine understands exactly what you want to do. There's a translation process involved in that, taking the English and turning it into machine code. I was directly involved in writing that code that takes the English and turning it into that mess that nobody wants to see. I would say that I identify with the mission of Sparkster very heavily because I myself sometimes, I get tired of sitting there and coding. And there's been many times when I've been thinking, if only this was easier. We're writing all this machine code. Man, if only there was an easier way to do this. And now there is an easier way because we built it. Many times during my work with Sparkster and other companies as well, For instance, I was working for Institute for Simulation and Training in the past. Many times I get asked this question that, how does a blind person code? And the answer to that question is that there's a piece of software that we run on the computer which reads everything out loud to us as we're typing. As we arrow around the screen, it's reading back everything that we've already typed. So through audible feedback, we can know exactly the code that we're writing. We can know where the errors are in the code. So it's all through audible feedback. There are a lot of people who say that I'm an inspiration to them. And I think the reason for that is because it was a struggle for me to go through university to get my degree, especially. That was one of my biggest challenges that I faced. Because I was the first blind person at my university to go through the computer science program. So many things were inaccessible. And for many things, I had to be the one to pave the way to make it easier for future blind people. I think a lot of people look at that struggle that I went through as perseverance, not giving up. If there's one thing I want you to take away from watching this video, it's that you should be prepared to take your part in making the impossible possible. And I say that for two reasons. Number one, if you look at me personally, I'm blind and I'm here today working on one of the greatest projects the world has to offer, which means that the only limitations exist are the ones that we put on ourselves. If I can be here doing this, then you can be somewhere else doing something else great, just like what I'm doing today. The second reason I say this is because with the platform that we bring to you, you're going to have the ability to make the impossible possible. I'm not talking about Bill Gates or any of the people who have already made it, but I'm talking about you. It's going to be your turn to make the impossible possible. And you can do that using our platform by bringing your ideas to fruition in a matter of minutes. By not bothering with the behind the scenes code, by not bothering with the mess that the rest of us had to go through. You know, there was an article I read recently that mentioned that employees tend to leave a company because of two things: poor leadership and bad atmosphere. And I take bad atmosphere to mean a lack of motivation by the team, a bad team, a team that doesn't work together, and poor leadership. Everybody knows what that means. At Sparkster, we're fortunate enough to where we don't have that issue. Everybody works together. And I think the reason for that is because we all believe in the mission. We're all extremely passionate about what we've developed and what we're bringing to the world. And everybody wants to see nothing but the platform succeed. And that brings me to my second point about the management. I think Sparkster has phenomenal management. And the reason I say that is because they actively encourage debate. They've actively told us, as the developer, that if there's something that we say or something that we do that you don't agree with, tell us. And I think, nobody is ever going to tell you that if you disagree with our decision, tell us. But Sparkster is unique in that aspect, that they encourage it. And I think that's one reason why the team is so healthy, because we're all seen as equals. Not that, developers are down below and the management is up top. We're all equal, we're all in this together. My parting words to you is that we want to see you join us in our collective mission to make the world a better place and to see all of our unrealized ideas come to fruition because of this software that we've developed.